It's Kyle Coberline, a truck and RV sales professional at Bluegrass International Trucks, Buses, RVs, and Ideal Lease. We're in Kentucky. I came down to the 2022 Renegade Rally here at the Ridge Outdoor Resort. You can see the event center behind me. I had a ton of customers that wish they could have came. This was a top quality, top notch event. The people that organize this, the sponsors, I mean, they do a heck of a job. So I try to film as many of the presentations as I could so people could do a refresher, or the people that couldn't make it. And without further ado, you know, I'll attach one of the presentations to this intro and go from there.
I don't know it all, but I can figure a lot of things out. So I'm trying to bring that same attitude back into our team, and that way we can be more responsive to you, the customer. And ultimately, in my opinion, you're my boss. I take care of my boss, and my boss doesn't get mad at me, right? So I want to say thank you so much for the way you've treated my team. You've been awesome. I've been to a lot of rallies where it has not gone this smooth, it's not been this polite, it has not been this friendly. You are a special group, and I truly do mean that, and I appreciate you so much. So thank you for all you do. With that being said, I'm going to do a quick presentation. We're going to run a little short on time here, so I'm going to move a little quick, but I'll be here for questions. If you have any, let me know. I'm going to talk about preventative maintenance because it's important to keep things up and running. Why do we change the oil in our car? We do it because we don't want the engine to blow up, you know. And this is kind of what I'm going to go through to help you. So one of the things I'm going to start with are steps. Steps are probably the one thing that gets overlooked by people the most. When your steps don't work, you'll know it and you'll fall out of your coach. We don't want that to happen. So these are some tips that I used as a technician to make sure steps work properly. They work every time, and that, you know, they were just there. So they're quick, they're easy. So one of the things I always used is I always try to use, if you can't use CRC, use a dry lube of some sort. We don't want a lubrication that's going to draw dirt, because of where we're going to put this lubrication. We don't want it drawing dirt because it's going to make the steps work harder. So what will happen is, and I'll give you a scenario, as a technician, I would get a question, or I'd get a work order, and it would say, my steps don't go all the way in, or they don't go all the way out. And I can tell you from experience, it's never the motor. Those motors are all in or all out. It's almost always the step needing to be lubricated. So as you can see up here, I have taken pictures of the places that you would want to lubricate your step. Keep in mind, your steps are in the most volatile area on your coach. They're underneath, they're getting hammered by road dirt, water, all of that stuff. So all these little I call them pinch points. All these little pinch points where this step moves, they get dried out. And when they get dried out, they don't move smoothly. When they don't move smoothly, the step works harder. The brain thinks at that point, I'm drawing too many amps. If I'm drawing this many amps, I must be closed. I stop. I shut off power to the motor. So by hitting these areas, it will help keep your steps moving and operating and keep you going on the road. Most importantly, when you open the door, you have something to step on, and because that's a long step. The other area I go to, that's just another close-up picture. You can see. Huh? You like that? Yeah, $9.99. If you see that I put a little bend in my straw, that helps actually get into those areas, and it'll help when we go through our slide out. Lubrication. Just another area. The other area I always check is that you'll have to lay on your back and look up underneath. There's a 4-pin connector up underneath there. That 4-pin connector is called a Deutsch connector. They're supposed to be watertight. They're supposed to not have water in them. If you have a step that's acting erratic, doing some weird things, kind of wants to go out on its own, pull that pin apart, look in there and see if there's been any water or any corrosion. Water and corrosion are your enemy on that connector. If there's been water or corrosion, the water can actually make contact between the 2 points and tells the brain the step needs to go out when it really doesn't need to go out. So it's a good idea while you're lubricating your step, take a minute, pull it apart, take a look, put a little bit of dielectric grease in there if you want. That helps keep it lubricated, helps fight the moisture and corrosion. Then when I put them back together, I always make sure they're snapped tight, and then I wrap them with some black tape. It's just an added protection. You shouldn't have to with the Deutsch connector, but I don't trust it up underneath. Like I said, I'm going to move kind of quick here, so we're going to move to the Schwintek slides now. Do you have any questions on those steps? Did that make sense? Okay. Now, there's a handout, or there was a handout, it might not be there anymore, on the Schwintek slide out lubrication. We can see different areas. If you look at the top there, you can see that can where I have that straw bend. That helps you get into these locations when you lubricate it. We're going to lubricate this slide out from the outside only. So we're going to walk up to the coach. We're going to pull that sweep back just a little bit. Get your straw in there and squirt just a couple little squirts. You don't have to go crazy with the lubrication. We don't want it running out down the side of your coach. We just want a little bit in there. So we want to hit those gear blocks, and then I think they're gibs is what they call them, in the top with the arrows. We're going to do this on all 3 of the, I call them the rack, but the gear points. Here's another picture where you can see how we're getting it in around the corner. I'm trying to get where the wheel's at. You'll see that little wheel in there. You can feel it in there. You want to take and get in there and just give it a couple squirts. Then run your room in and out. This way, this should help with the operation. It helps it run smoother. You don't see it doesn't grind or anything like that. It just helps overall with the operation. If you, at this point, what I would also do is I would do a check and make sure that it's in time. Does everybody know how to time one of these? I'm not getting any hands saying yes. No? Kyle knows. What's that? Did he? It's not overly difficult. I'll go through it real quick. So to time your Schwintek system, it's very simple, and you can do it whether the room is fully extended or fully retracted. Doesn't really matter. So let's say we're sitting here in our campground. Our room is fully extended. We're going to walk up, and our bed slide, we want to time it. So we're going to walk up to our Firefly. We're going to go to the screen where our slide out is. We're going to hit the button to retract the room. And as soon as we hear those motors begin to move, release the button. So you don't want that room to move but an inch or so. Then extend the room again and hold the button until you don't hear the motors run. So the motors will hit, you'll hear them run, and you might hear another motor come in after the fact. Then it'll shut off. Do that 3 or 4 times, that will put the room in time. Then you should be able to go from there. Questions on that? Oh, we got a hand. You have 2 rails on top and the one on the bottom. Oh, some of the older ones, yeah. I'm speaking of newer coaches, sorry. The newer coaches will have 2 rails up top and 1 on the bottom. If you have an older coach, it would have 1 rail. So you just do 1 rail. Oh, got one back here.
Get your motors in time. Every time you take the slide in or take the slide out, you hold it 2 or 3 seconds when the motor is cut off. Does that keep it in time?
I would like to say it does, but we do see at times where it doesn't. But you should always hold the button until the motor's shut off when you operate your room, either fully extend or fully retract. It's not going to hurt anything. If you have the Liftco system where it makes the clunk, 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 you want to hold the button until you hear it begin to clunk, and once you hear 1 clunk, release the button. You know you're there. But on Schwintek, wait 3 to 5 seconds. I can't guarantee we'll always keep it in time, because if you get some voltage fluctuations, it can cause, those motors run off of, they count the windings, so if you get a voltage fluctuation, it might cause one motor to spin a little quicker and it'll throw them off a little. That's what we've seen. So if you see the room, in case in point, I had a gentleman out here that he ran his bedroom out. One side, it was the rear side would hit, and he'd hold the button and all of a sudden the front side would come kick out. I went in, timed it up, ran just fine. It wasn't making any clunking noises or anything like that. Why it was out of time, I can't tell you at this point, but I just knew it was. So that's what you're looking for in the scenario. Well, got a few. I saw this one over here first, so.
I'll let you so everybody can hear.
Dwayne's gonna get you the mic.
Okay, when I picked mine up a year and a half ago from the dealer, he called me, said I had a problem with which I've got a 40 BB8 bunkhouse. He said, we got a problem with it, it's not closing all the way. So they put a new piece of weather stripping, just double the weather stripping on it. I went ahead and picked it up. I've had it to 2 shops. They actually supposed to change all the mechanisms out. And then we had an appointment in Indiana last August. Alright, it was still doing it, they worked on it. Left Bristol, went to ship Schwintek. It was working fine when I left Bristol. When I got over there, it was doing just like you was talking about. One side was coming out before the other. Which Woody had already sent me a new controller as soon as we got it. He said that made me And so when we left ship Schwintek, when we started in with it, it worked fine. Got back to Northwest Alabama, it stayed parked for 3 to 4 weeks, slide out, started running in, same thing, and it was just sitting there. Seems like every time you move with it, it throws something off, which I've still got another appointment for the Rally in May. They're going to look at it again.
Yeah, I'm thinking there might be a harness issue.
He says it's showing code 8 as well.
8, then it probably needs a harness. And we got one of the harnesses is acting up. Code 8 was, and I know this because I've actually replaced these harnesses. When I see a code 8 on the control board, it told me that there's one of the harnesses. I figure out which harness, which when you look at the control board, it'll tell you motor 1, motor 2. If you know that, you just replace that harness. So that's probably what the problem is. There's fine wires inside of that, and when they get put in there, it could have bent one, or it's hard to say. So I got 13 minutes, so I got to hurry.
Kurt, did we have another question over here?
Let me get through the presentation, and then we'll get to the. So we'll go ahead and start on the roofs. The other slide, you have little rollers that are on where your rails are. where your gears run. Loop those little places right there. You should be good to go. Don't put grease on that thing because it'll attract dirt, and then you'll have dirt in your gears and everything else. So, yep, you can use the CRC. Roofs and attachments, things we want to look for.
What kind of
Looking at this, it may look like it's old and not sealed and not working.
what
One
dry?
thing I see is
There's
a
dry
little
moly,
spot.
dry graphite, dry PTFE.
That's it. Nope. So, we want to look for little fine cracks, things like that. Make sure the seal is down and not peeling up. If you have tape along the side here, you want to look for if it's rolling up, things like that. Up here in the front corners, I call these the transition corners. We want to check those, make sure the seal's not cracked or coming up or flaking. And you can use, we use GeoCell 2600. And then the tape we got in stock, you can call in and we can get you a tape number if you need to replace it. If you're going to replace or you're going to just over seal or just seal over these cracks, use isopropyl alcohol and a rag. Clean the area really good, make sure there's no dirt, then apply your seal over the top. The alcohol will help loosen, or not really loosen, but it softens that seal to where when you put the new on, it'll bite in. But it's important that it's clean. If you have tape with a rolled edge, really you need to cut it out and put it in pieces. That's the only way to do it. If you have to remove tape, we use a heat gun to heat the tape up. Use an old putty scraper, scrape it up, clean off the old glue, put the new tape down, wipe it down with isopropyl alcohol, and then put your tape down. If you're taking up the seal, we'll use a putty knife, but we'll heat the putty knife up and then push it through the seal and clean the seal off. If you try to take that seal off without heating it up, you're gonna work really hard, and you're gonna get really tired really fast, and you're gonna get really angry. So.
Could you place tape over a piece of tape, or just like underneath? Or you have to cut it out?
You can put a piece of tape over another piece of tape, but make sure it's clean. If you notice, I've been hitting a word there, clean, clean, clean. Make sure it's clean, and you can go over the top of it. And what I would do is then grab it and see if it'll come back up. And if it doesn't, you'll be fine. If it's rolled and dirty, and I find that a lot of times it's easier just to cut the piece that's rolled off, cut where it's rolled off, clean it, and then put a new piece over the top. That works better than trying to scrape it all. But if you're going to scrape it all, there's some folks that, hey, I'm scraping it. Then get a heat gun and roll it. I would cut where it's rolled so that you can get a nice flat surface. And then clean it up. And then just go over 6 inches or so past where you cut it out. And you'll be okay. Make sure you have plenty of room. Last thing I'm going to touch on is holding tanks. And these will be the only pictures you get for obvious reasons. Because, yeah, we all, obviously, holding tanks reading correctly it's a big topic. And I'm going to let you know it's industry-wide. I've seen this for years. The picture I have showing here, these are the Pro style. We also have the sea level style, and we have the true tanks. My experience has been to clean your tanks is to use basic hot water. 10 to 15 gallons of hot water into your tank, right out of the tap. Let it sit there a little bit. If you can drive it and slosh it around, even better. Flush it out. Do it a couple times, see what happens. A hot water, it will soften up the dirty business, I guess is what I'll call it. I don't know where else to go with that. But it helps soften everything up and it helps clean the tank. I used to do this whenever I had to work on a tank. I always cleaned them because for obvious reasons, I wanted to clean. And more times than not, I could get tanks to read correctly by just cleaning them. What happens is we use the tanks and we don't necessarily use enough water, and then things sit, and they build up, and we have problems. The other thing I would suggest is a good tank cleaner that has enzymes. There are a lot of tank cleaners out there that smell really good and all they are is perfume. Get something with a good enzyme. So you can go to Camping Worlds or wherever, find something with an enzyme and use an enzyme. Don't use bleach, don't use chemicals like that. If you mix chemicals, you can create a problem. So this is quick, simple, easy stuff that you can do, and it helps, and it works. If you're going to sanitize your tanks, I did put up here how to sanitize the tanks. Now, I will tell you, I got this off the internet as far as the solution and how much per gallon and things like that. So you can look it up for yourself. On a Renegade, hold the filter canister down, take the filter out, put a mixture of that solution in there, and then begin running it through your system. It will do the same thing. Because that does, and that will sanitize your tanks, that will sanitize your lines and all of that. If you're sanitizing, you never want to run bleach through an aqua hot or a true tank. So you want to make sure you always bypass them. Let me say that again. Never run bleach through an aqua hot or a true tank. The bleach will begin to you'll have a chemical reaction with the copper inside of it, and it will begin to eat holes in it. So do not use bleach in that. So make sure you bypass those. Another one, step 3, step 4 on how to sanitize. Let it sit overnight, let it sit, then flush it out until the bleach goes away. Bleach smell, it may take a minute, but it will go away. And I know this works because I owned a home that smelled, when I took a shower, it had a very strong smell. And I had a well, so I dumped a gallon of bleach down it, and this is how I sanitized it. It'd be good for 3 months, and then I'd have to do it again. And it was just the well water. I did. I don't know if you're supposed to, but I did it. And it worked, and I never had any problems, but it was my house. I got 4 minutes, okay. That's actually wrapping it up. That's it. So.
All right, so we've only got a couple minutes instead of running. So we don't run over here. If anybody has any questions for us yet, we'll take it outside and you guys can hit us up out there. So that way, whatever else is flowing in.
I want to make sure that everybody is aware of, and it's not a jab at anybody, it's just information purposes. If you're buying a new Renegade and you're going to one of our Renegade dealers, that's perfectly good. It's warranty, everything, service, all that kind of stuff. What I'm cautioning you guys to watch out for, because this came back a couple of times, people are buying a used coach, which maybe they're under the impression somehow that it's a new coach and expecting that warranty to be good and transferred. Just be aware, if it's a used coach, that warranty does not transfer. Now, we end up having to, work with the customer, because now if not, we look like a bad manufacturer for not, if it's under a year old, what are we doing? Because somebody sold it really quick, now are we supposed to not warranty that? Whatever. We take that on a case-by-case basis, but just please be aware, if you're buying a used coach, it is declared a used coach. And so, I want that to be known. So, and if a used coach, that warranty does not transfer. Yeah, the chassis will transfer over, and there's a structural thing, but that 1 year warranty, that is not, the bumper to bumper portion of it does not transfer. So just be aware of that. I don't. I am not here to slander anybody, so that's not where I'm going. I'm just saying, buyer beware. No, if you're spending $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 on a coach,
The only way to buy a new coach is through a dealer.
Renegade dealer. Yes.
So that's the test.
Yeah, because we issue franchises to all these dealers. Obviously,
Some of the
Sport
dealers
Truck,
do
they
transfers
have
of
their
Renegade.
franchise, and other dealers have their franchises, and we can't produce enough product to keep them satisfied. And if all of a sudden somebody else just so happens to turn up a new coach on the market, I'm getting screamed at from Kyle and the other dealers. You told me I couldn't have enough, and you're selling a coach to somebody else over here. That's not the case. I guarantee you. I haven't signed a new dealer in 2 years. So that's where we're at. All right.